Some nights change everything. This was one of them. The knock on my door at 1 a.m. wasn't the polite tap of a neighbor asking for sugar. It was desperate, frantic pounding that made my heart race before I even opened my eyes. 23 years on the Riverton Police Department had taught me to recognize the sound of genuine terror, and this was it. "Mom, please, open the door." Ella's voice cracked through the Arizona night, barely recognizable through her sobs and fear. I threw on my robe and rushed to the front door, my bare feet slapping against the cold tile. When I yanked it open, my daughter collapsed into my arms like a broken bird falling from the sky. What I saw made my blood turn to ice in my veins. Her left eye was swollen shut, a purple bruise spreading across her cheekbone like spilled wine. Her bottom lip was split and crusted with dried blood. But it was the finger-shaped bruises around her throat that made something dark and primal rise up inside me. She clutched her stomach, trembling so violently I thought she might shatter. "Jesus Christ, Ella, what did he do to you?" I guided her inside, locking the door behind us. My eyes found my police uniform hanging in the hallway, and something shifted inside me. The terrified mother was still there, but alongside her rose the cold, calculating mind of a cop who'd seen too much violence to let it slide. "Tonight, you're not just a mother, Pat," I whispered to myself, my jaw clenching. "You're justice." Instead of immediately rushing to the hospital, I pulled out my personal phone and started documenting everything. The bruises, the timestamp, the location, every detail that could matter in court. Then I called Ben Carter, my oldest friend and the best emergency doctor at Riverton General. "Ben, prepare a bed. My daughter's been attacked. This isn't an accident." The drive to the hospital was silent except for Ella's quiet whimpering. Ben was waiting for us, his usually warm demeanor replaced by professional fury when he saw what Eric had done. He didn't just treat her wounds, he documented every mark, took x-rays, ordered a CT scan. He knew exactly what I needed for the case I was already building in my mind. While Ella was being examined, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text from Eric lit up the screen. "Don't you dare open your mouth or you'll lose everything." That land too. When I reached for the phone, Ella panicked and clutched it to her chest. "Mom, don't! He'll hurt you too!" But I'd already seen enough. I used my own phone to photograph every threatening message, uploading them immediately to a secure cloud drive. "No one threatens my daughter, Eric," I muttered, "and no one silences me." As the pain medication took effect, Ella began mumbling about the land her grandfather had left her. Something about Eric's threats clicked into place, and I felt that familiar investigative instinct kicking in. This wasn't just domestic violence, this was bigger. The next morning, my neighbor Dolores Park came rushing over before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. The 70-year-old retired school teacher had eyes like a hawk and the backbone of a steel rod. "Pat, I heard everything last night. I've got it all on camera." She pulled out her phone with hands that didn't shake despite her age. "That monster's car was here right before Ella showed up. Black sedan, just like his. He followed her here." I watched the footage 3 times, my anger growing with each viewing. There was Ella, stumbling toward my door. There was Eric's car speeding away into the darkness. And there was the timestamp that would put him at the scene. "Mrs. Park, would you testify in court?" "Honey, I'd testify against the devil himself if it meant protecting that sweet girl." An hour later, my phone rang. Caleb Morton from the county recorder's office sounded panicked. "Pat, we need to talk. Something's very wrong with your property records." I drove to his office, my uniform crisp and my badge polished. Caleb had been recording property transfers in Riverton for 15 years, and I'd never seen him this agitated. "Your signature's been forged, Pat. Badly. And your daughter supposedly signed over her grandfather's land to someone named Tara Quinn. Eric filed the paperwork himself, said you were too busy to come in person." Caleb's honest face was flushed with indignation. Someone inside helped him rush this through. This stinks of corruption. I studied the forged documents, my detective training kicking into high gear. "Caleb, I need certified copies of everything. The originals, the fakes, all of it." "Already made them. Pat, nail this bastard to the wall." That afternoon, I drove to Eric's pawn shop, still wearing my uniform. The Malaloy trading post reeked of cigarettes, desperation, and dirty money. 3 of Eric's friends lounged around like carrion birds, their eyes following me as I walked in. Well, if it isn't the mother-in-law," one of them sneered. "Come to lecture us about family values?" I didn't respond. I simply walked to Eric's desk and slammed down a thick folder containing medical photos, Dolores's video, the forged documents, and screenshots of his threatening texts. "This is evidence. You attacked my daughter, and you're trying to steal her inheritance." Eric looked up from his paperwork with that smirk I'd grown to hate. "Evidence? You got a better lawyer than me, Pat? Your daughter needed some discipline. Don't think that badge is going to save you or your little girl." The room went silent. I leaned across his desk, my voice dropping to a whisper that could cut glass. "You're not just facing a mother anymore, Eric. You're facing the law, and the law is going to crush you." I left him sitting there with his face dark as a thundercloud, his threats echoing behind me. The pressure came immediately. Riverton was a small town, and gossip traveled faster than wildfire. People whispered that I was abusing my authority and that Ella was making it all up. But every whispered accusation only strengthened my resolve. When I found an anonymous note under my door the next morning, threatening to take away my daughter if I didn't stay quiet, I knew I was on the right track. Eric was scared, and scared men make mistakes. I needed an inside ally, and I knew exactly who to target: Tara Quinn, Eric's girlfriend, and the woman whose name was on the forged property transfer. I spent 3 days watching the Silver Spur Tavern before making my move. When I finally approached Tara, I wasn't wearing my uniform. Just old jeans, a baseball cap, and the kind of determined expression that comes from having nothing left to lose. "Tara, we need to talk." She looked up from her whiskey with the hollow eyes of someone who'd been used and knew it. I slid a folder across the sticky table, containing not just the forged documents but also records of her mounting debts and Eric's history of using women as fronts for his illegal activities. Eric isn't just betraying my daughter, he's using you. He promised you that land, but you'll be the one going to prison for fraud while he walks away clean. Tara's face crumbled as she read through the evidence. He said Ella would never fight back. He said it would be easy money. "Help me take him down and I'll make sure you're protected. Keep playing his game and you'll be sharing a cell block with him." She agreed, but only after I promised her complete protection. The next morning, I walked into Captain Joel Ramirez's office and laid everything on his desk. Ramirez had been my supervisor for 8 years, and he'd never seen me ask for personal favors. "Pat, you're walking a dangerous line here, but I'll support you. Just make sure everything's documented perfectly." I also called Marcus Hale, an old friend who'd left the force to become a defense attorney specializing in domestic violence cases. He'd been waiting for an opportunity like this for years. "Marcus, I need you to destroy Eric Malloy in court." "Pat, it would be my absolute pleasure." 6 weeks later, we walked into the Riverton County Courthouse. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension and anticipation. Judge Raymond Keaton, a fair man with 30 years on the bench, called the court to order. Marcus had prepared our case like a military campaign. First came Ben Carter, who testified with clinical precision about Ella's injuries, explaining how the pattern of bruising was consistent with strangulation and blunt force trauma, not an accident or fall. Then came Dolores's video. The courtroom fell silent as Ella's desperate voice filled the room, followed by the clear footage of Eric's car fleeing the scene. I watched the jury's faces harden with each second of testimony. Marcus presented Eric's threatening text messages, his voice growing stronger with each piece of evidence. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a crime of passion. This is systematic abuse designed to terrorize the victim into silence." Caleb Morton took the stand next, explaining how the property fraud had been orchestrated with inside help. He'd done his homework, bringing evidence of bribes and rushed processing that painted a clear picture of corruption. Then came Tara Quinn. Despite her fear, she told the truth about Eric's manipulation, his promises, and his detailed plan to steal Ella's inheritance. She also revealed Eric's money laundering operation through the pawnshop, using her name to hide his illegal profits. When Eric heard Tara's testimony, he exploded. "You lying bitch. This is all lies." Judge Keaton's gavel cracked like thunder. "Mr. Malloy, you will control yourself or be held in contempt." Finally, it was my turn. I stood in my dress uniform, every button polished, every crease sharp. "Your Honor, I'm a police officer, but today, I stand here as a mother. The man who brutalized my daughter isn't a protector, he's a predator and a fraud. The law must speak for those who cannot speak for themselves." Eric's lawyer, Victor Ames, tried desperately to discredit our evidence, claiming I'd abused my authority and coerced Tara into lying. But every argument crumbled against the mountain of evidence we'd assembled. Judge Keaton returned after 2 hours of deliberation. His voice was firm and unwavering as he delivered the verdict. Permanent restraining order for Ella. Property transfer nullified and land returned to Ella's ownership. All of Eric's assets frozen pending criminal investigation. Case referred to the district attorney for prosecution on charges of domestic violence, fraud, forgery, money laundering, and witness intimidation. The gavel fell with finality. 2 sheriff's deputies approached Eric's table. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed through the silent courtroom. Eric, who'd strutted around Riverton like he owned the place, now looked pale and defeated as they led him away. I took Ella's hand as we watched her abuser disappear through the courthouse doors. She was still trembling, but these were tears of relief. 3 months later, Eric was sentenced to 12 years in state prison. The corruption investigation led to 3 county employees being fired and prosecuted. His pawnshop was shuttered, its assets seized to pay restitution to his victims. The story made headlines across Arizona. Eric's arrest photo, showing him disheveled and terrified, was broadcast statewide. Justice had a face, and it looked nothing like the swaggering bully who'd terrorized my daughter. Ella began intensive therapy with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a trauma specialist who understood the long road to healing. Slowly, My daughter's smile returned. The nightmares faded. Her laughter filled the house again. 6 months after the trial, Ella made a decision that surprised everyone. She used her grandfather's land to establish the Robert Carson Foundation, a legal aid and counseling center for domestic violence survivors. The property that Eric had tried to steal became a sanctuary for women escaping abuse. "Mom," she told me as we watched construction crews breaking ground, "Grandpa always said this land was meant to protect family. Now it's protecting all the daughters who need a safe place to heal." As for me, I was commended by the department for my dedication to justice, even when it involved my own family. But more importantly, I'd learned that sometimes being a good mother means being willing to fight like hell for what's right. I continue my patrol duties in Riverton, but now I also train officers in domestic violence response. I tell them Ella's story, show them how to recognize the signs, and remind them that their badge represents hope for people who have nowhere else to turn. Tonight, as I finish my shift and head home, I think about that desperate knock on my door 8 months ago. I think about the choice I made to fight instead of stay silent. I think about the oath I took, both as a police officer and as a mother. Justice isn't just about punishment for the guilty. It's about creating a path to freedom for the innocent. Silence is never an option when someone you love is suffering. Speak up, fight back, because the truth, no matter how difficult, can always open the door to safety and freedom. In the desert town of Riverton, where secrets used to fester in the heat, we learned that some tears wash away more than pain. They wash away fear, shame, and the power of those who prey on the vulnerable. My daughter is safe. Eric is where he belongs. And justice, though sometimes slow in coming, always finds its way home.